Nicole Thum is an accountant and city thinker who thinks cities are made for the people and not for politicians. She believes that good social infrastructure is important to create sustainable cities for future communities. She has been working at Think City, Malaysia for almost 10 years, and currently she is working as manager for urban mechanics and special projects. In this episode, we talked about public spaces and placemaking in Malaysia and Think City's role in making it happen as well. Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. I'm Asban Sari, the founder of the organization Peacemakers Pakistani, and I'm bringing you the stories of placemakers, artists, and professionals from around the globe about how they created an impact and made change happen. You are listening to the Making It Happen show. Thank you for joining in. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you and how's life going?
Hi, Aspa. Thank you for having me. Life's been well. I'm actually pregnant with my first child, and we just finished a whole day of introducing grants to KL. So that's great.
Amazing. So happy to hear that. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so happy that finally we are talking like this. Like I've met you, and we have been connected, I guess, since 2021 or 2020.
I
I
think
don't,
2020, late 2020.
yeah, we got connected during
Yeah.
COVID, and I took so long to connect with you. But I'm happy that I finally did, and I'm looking forward to learning from you. So let's start. Um,
Okay.
Okay, so what I want to know first is that how did you find your passion for public spaces and placemaking? And amazingly, and it's a story of accountant turned into a city thinker and then motivated to give in this area of profession.
Mm-hmm.
So how did it happen?
Yeah, I'm actually a graduate in accounting and finance from Australia. And I did do my practice in accounting, was in it for about 5 years, and it just got boring. And then I found my passion in events, and I realized I don't like events. I like dealing with people. I like talking to people. I like understanding what is it that they want. I like, just overall communicating with people. Then I left my job in accounting and found a job in Think City. And that's when communicating with people became an essence in actually city in what Think City does, which is city making and making places more accessible, making places better, making places more livable. Um, and how Think City does it is through a lot of community engagements that then lead into placemaking projects or community engagement that then lead into community projects that we can support. So if you see how I've said it, it's all about talking to people. It's all about connecting with communities. So that's where I found um my passion. You can say passion in helping people find their way in contributing to the place that they're living in. Yeah. And that has been 10 years since
Ah,
joining Think City.
wow, amazing. So you have been associated with Think City like quite a long time, like you said, 10 years almost. So how has been the experience so far, and would you like to share any of your favorite projects or the mission of Think City?
So like I said, Think City is an organization by that is supported by or rather it is a subsidiary of Khazanah National Berhad, which is the sovereign wealth fund of Malaysia. So we do get some funding from them to help us run our operations. But other than that, what we do is to make, like I said, make cities better. We have also now expanded to make rural areas better and more comfortable to live in. So ultimately, it's just it leads to improving the economic activity in cities that then lead to empowering the communities that then lead to a better place to stay. Um, a good favorite project of mine is actually um, grant giving. So like grant giving as a whole, because that's when you can actually get communities to participate or incentivize communities to participate in contributing to their place or living or their cities. So using grants as an incentive to get them to think of areas of improvement or projects that they could run on their own, and that then they can slowly think about, okay, this is a problem that I want to address in where I stay or in where I live or within my community. And then we give them some funding and they op- execute it, and then it has a larger impact to the city. That's how we do it in Think City. So the grants part has been very fulfilling because you do get to speak to communities or people who are very passionate, but they really do not know what to do. Sometimes they do not even see that there could be a problem, and you highlight it to them, they'll be like, oh, yes, that is a problem. I run my life daily, let's say, in the city, and I don't realize that it's actually hot because there's not enough greens. Or I realize, oh, I don't actually have a park to be at after work where I can just do some stretching or exercise. So when you start seeding all these ideas to them and they start thinking, they'll be like, oh yeah, I actually do need that, right? So it also goes into sort of educating the communities about what is it that is actually missing, because sometimes you just don't think about it, right?
Yes, so true. And like I've been into placemaking since 5 years, and what I had to unlearn was instead of telling people what they should be, I'm now inspired to ask people what they want themselves, and then um, analyzing that is it doable or is it, identifying the right problem. Sometimes people are
Mm-hmm.
expressing their frustrations, which feel like that they need this thing at the moment. Well, where instead it's their frustration because of something happening at the back end, and cutting the root cause or going to the root cause is actually very
Yeah.
important. And I do believe that placemakers are for that reason. And whatever I've learned so far by the people in the community globally is that identifying the right reasons to do things, and then people can operate on that. People do things if they know what to do and how to do it. And
Yeah.
yes, you are so right that we need to talk to people about their own problems and then empowering them to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it is one of the sort of, if I just may very quickly, is that we do have some principles that we have formed around placemaking, and then one of the principles that we have in Think City is that the whole placemaking is a journey. You gotta go in, understand the issues, understand the problem. You have to do a whole SWOT, right, with the people. Then you start thinking about, okay, what is the right solution for it? Not every space or place needs the same intervention. Then if not, then every place will become generic, right?
Yes, that's true. That's very true because and sometimes we also like I had to hold myself back, and a lot of people in my circle that yes, we are seeing some, there are a lot of people who are willing to invest in a place just because they see a great outcome out of it or revenue out of it, while compromising the culture or the emotional values of people living there. So that is one problem also that we see a lot, and the SWOT analysis actually helps in that area, in this aspect, and it has been helpful to me as well. So thank you for having this discussion, and like it's sort of a validation that we are on the right track, and it's very inspiring the change we see in Malaysia and the way they are the placemaking Malaysia, the way you guys are doing things. And so amazing. Okay, so you believe that good social infrastructure is important to create sustainable cities for future communities. So would you like to elaborate more on this? What do you mean by social infrastructure and how do you create or provide it?
So social infrastructure, if you look into Google, they'll tell you that it's the opposite of the hard infrastructure, which is how do you education policies and all that. And those are very important because if you're not able to educate your communities, you can give them the best infrastructure and they will not be able to not will not be able the it's not fully optimized, it's not fully utilized, or rather, they probably would not even understand why infrastructure like that is placed. They would be thinking, okay, having a car park is better than having a green space, stuff like that. So this is where education comes in. And you need policies to support all of that because if not, there will be more and more blocks of car park because Malaysia is such a car centric city and everybody drives, right? Some families have like 3 cars, 4 cars, 5 cars. So every car park is a scarce commodity. And if you think about it, the every time you ask in a apartment or a condo area, what is it that you need most in here? It's always car park. But why is it that they don't think about a green space or a park or stuff like that? So it all goes back to education, and it has to be supported by government policies that say that if you have too many car parks, and what's the issue? If you don't have green spaces, what are the issues? Um, so it is very important to have social infrastructure in place. And it is probably the more difficult infrastructure to implement because it will take years of trying to convince or even months before you execute a project to try to convince. So something like in social infrastructure is very important even before heading into a physical infrastructure execution or implementation.
That's true because I struggle in that area too. So, how do you educate people, like through your projects, or what strategies are very helpful to you in this regard?
It's very often convincing, persuading, speaking to them. Um, it's actually mutual understanding. Why do they want what they want? And why do you want them to understand what you want for them? So it goes back to engagement, very deep and close community engagement. Um, and through that engagement, it's a lot of um, education, sharing with them the ideas, sharing them what ifs. What if you do not have a park? Your grandchildren may not even know what grass is, or your grandchildren will not have place to play, or your children, right? So a lot of convincing, trying to see align your objectives with them. Sometimes it could be also a give and take. For example, it could be a park on top of a car park. So this is where you have to compromise because ultimately they are the users of the space. If they do not buy into your idea, they do not want to buy into the project, it will be left abandoned. It becomes a white elephant.
True.
Yeah.
Also, I want to ask that how supportive is government in this whole scenario, and how long has they been involved in this?
So we work very closely with the government, whether if it's state, local municipalities, or even federal government. They are usually very receptive that because they understand the value of getting community buy-in. Because if, like I said earlier, if the community don't buy into your project, it if they will go all out to rebel against the project, and it becomes bad news in the media. So more often than not, they see the value in community engagement. they see the value in talking to the people.
Great. Right. Now, that clarifies that social infrastructure is important because if people are educated, they will not buy in the ideas that will actually harm their existence or their places. So
Mhm.
awesome. Okay, so also I would like to know that what are the challenges and opportunities in Kuala Lumpur public spaces? So, and what are your goals about placemaking in this regard?
So if you look into every city, almost every city has the same issues. Especially developed cities, it is car centric. You don't have walkways. Um, you don't see trees. You don't know all of that, right? And there really no place for people to decompress after a long day at work. Um, it's the same for KL. Probably even more so car centric in KL City. The current area that we are more focused in is downtown KL itself. And having worked in three cities, the mainland of Penang, Penang Island, and also KL, it's all the same problem. Sidewalks are almost non-existent. It's too narrow for people to walk in, and all that. Public housing is an issue. Environment is also an issue. Oh, so when we look into a placemaking project, we tend to see what is more important in the area. What is the priority? So for KL, there has to be a vision for it, and for KL at the moment is to turn into a creative and cultural district and to see how all the projects can come in together to support it being a creative and cultural district. That includes heritage conservation, which then has conservation of the building itself. But how do you use placemaking to reactivate the spaces around it? We also do have improvement of back lanes, how to use back lanes as a safe connector from one street to another street, beside instead of crossing very heavy traffic streets. So these are some of the placemaking projects that we are looking at in Think City. Personally, I'm still looking at the activation and community programming component of it. That is true, like I said, the grants program.
Awesome. And I'm so happy that you were so focused on expressing the challenges and opportunities and how much they are relatable as well. Um, because we are seeing the car-centric um, planning in Lahore and in my country overall. Um, that's taking the peak and even compromising on the culture districts, And just to make space for cars, we are okay with demolishing the old buildings. And that's a pain point for a lot of people like me. So, making the agenda of securing the creative districts, like, the culture and creative district to make it an agenda might help in raising voice. And I think it has,
It does need also, sorry, very quickly, it does need also the buy-in of the other stakeholders, including the people who manage the cities, including the government. Yeah.
yeah, so that's the challenge point. That's the challenging point here. Because it is being done, yeah, like I said, that people who are very passionate about creative districts, creativity and culture and history. They are raising their voice, but things are not aligning well, maybe. But again, coming back to the point, community activation might be actually helpful in this because more people will raise their voice and more changes able to be implemented. I think, and that's we are trying to see. So good points. Thank you.
Mm.
Uh,
That is actually what's going on in Penang. Because in Penang, with the whole, or rather Georgetown, there's actually a very active community groups that goes around wanting to do preservation of certain parts of the city, or assets of this heritage assets of the city, and their voice becomes so loud and vital that now any planning will then require a feedback from the community before the planning gets approved. So I think that it's community voices are very important.
Great. That's a good story of to be inspired from and to be motivated by. Thank you. Okay, and what steps are being taken in Malaysia from the tourism industry, and what does impact it has on the planning of a city according to you?
So Malaysia is a very is a country that's quite heavily reliant on tourism. KL itself and where the old town of KL, where we call downtown KL, is also very reliant on tourism to for it to be economically active. So like I said earlier, that because it's an old part of KL, there is now movement to preserve and restore heritage assets in the area. Um, those are very big heritage assets, so it will take years. So um, that's what the tourism industry or tourism ministry is doing. But when you look into a city, it should not really be just for tourism. It should be for the people who are currently living in it. And the old town of KL is um full, or what, majority of the people that are actually living in there are foreign workers or immigrant workers. So we have to see how the city can work for them, or how the city can be a safe space for them to live in, for them to call it probably their second home or even temporary home. And it also includes the education part of it. How do you keep the city clean and all that? Uh, because your question is how the tourism industry, right? Um, it that it's like any other places where cities are not really looked after. The tourists will come to downtown KL and they'll look at all the rubbish and the bad infrastructure, and they'll complain about it. So I think with this government, they are looking at it and saying that, we have to do something about it. So they are trying with that. They are doing the heritage conservation and all. Mm.
Great. And yes, tourism has been a very helpful tool or agenda or maybe a strategy to make people focus on their historical buildings or the old town that you mentioned. And yes, it's happening here as well. So I'm glad that it's being paid attention to. And okay, so lastly, is would you like to share your place attachment story to Malaysia or Kuala Lumpur in specific?
I am actually from Penang. I've only been in KL the past 2 to 3 years. So my attachment is actually to Penang. uh, but I studied abroad, and at that time when I was studying abroad, I was thinking, oh, I should just leave Malaysia and stay abroad because it is nicer, colder, but coming back to Malaysia to work has sort of opened up my eyes, and also working in Think City or being with Think City has opened my eyes even wider about actually the improvements or the changes that I can bring or I can contribute to my country, and how I can play a role in making my country better. Although it may not be as big of a role like the politicians or the government and all that, but it is small. Um, it's small, but it's impactful. Um, that's how then I saw, okay, I need to really contribute back to my city. I think the people here really needs somebody like me or somebody like our organization to make them love their city more. Um, yeah, and then when you love your city more, that's when you really would take care of your city and be part of it fully. Yeah, that's my attachment to Malaysia. Um, Obviously the grass is always greener, but you can make your patch of grass greener by watering it, right? So that's what I believe in.
That's sweet. And I'm happy that you came back and we are able to have this conversation about Malaysia. Uh, okay, so these questions were solely focused on you. Like, now I have some rapid fire questions that I ask everyone. So let's begin with that. What drives you? What keeps you focused on the work that you do?
I think it's being able to help the community see something that they probably have not seen. Um, and seeing results at the end when the project is implemented, that really drives me and that gives me satisfaction.
Lovely. And would you like to share any proudest moment of your work life?
Um, when you actually speak to people who have actually implemented the project that you help them ideate. So being a person who has been running grants, we have about 30 to 40 projects every year. And when they successfully implement those projects and they come back to say that, okay, my I will be doing this next year, you'll be thinking, oh wow, the project that you help ideate now has taken a life on its own, right? It has its own sustainability, it has its own impact, it has its own outcome, and it's great for the city. So that is really like my proudest moment. But I cannot be proud if it's not for the people who are doing it.
Right. And what was your hardest moment of work life?
Oh, uh, that is when the ideas that you think will happen or will have that outcome that you desire does not happen. Uh, and it becomes um, a flunk that it just was not realized in a way, was not executed properly, just because probably you know we did not see the challenges that was there, and it was not executed, although it was such a beautiful idea. It is really disappointing. One of it is if I would just like very quickly elaborate, is a festival was supposed to take place in KL, due to maybe bad partnership or a different understanding of the vision of it. It just didn't take off as per vision.
So how did you cope with that frustration or with that anger or sadness?
It's a lot more upset at that point, but then after that you realize there are learnings. How do you how could you have prevented those issues, mitigated those issues? So every failure sort of become a learning, but before it becomes a learning, there's a lot of emotions involved.
Definitely. Okay, so do you have any placemaking mantra or any code that keeps you focused or that motivates you to work on it?
It's for the people. The people are the most important. The communities are the most important. They are the ones who are using the space. They are the ones who will continue to use the space even after I've gone.
Lovely. Okay, it's a separate thing, but I would like to mention here that I have met a few Malaysian people, um, especially in Saudi, like when I was on Umrah, and I have heard about the Malaysian people in Pakistan as well, like when they visit. There's a vibe about them. They are so calm and very, you know, positive people. I want to know that how is it really a vibe in all of them? The sweetest people I feel they that vibe in them. Do you think that is there anything in your country that helps build such people or their character or anything? Like sometimes people who live by riverside or seaside, they have that quality in them as well. But I would like to know, or do you think that every people in your country feels that way towards other people, or it's just you?
I feel like Malaysians generally are very nice. And because we I don't know. I feel like Malaysians generally are very nice. I come from Penang where it is super chill. Everybody is just very relaxed. Moving to KL is from an island to a city. All people are still fairly relaxed, a little bit more, anxious in the stuff in what they do. But then I feel like Malaysians generally are very nice people. We tend to be a little bit more positive than a lot more other people. Yeah.
I've been safest among Malaysian people. Like, when you are on Umrah, there are different people from different places. So I used to sit in the close to people who were from Malaysia or Indonesia. So I was very intrigued by this idea that why is it so? So yeah, I guess it's an ongoing research for me personally. May you all say the same. Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so do you have any opinion about Pakistan or placemaking in Pakistan?
Well, I don't really know Pakistan that well. We have a troop that went over to Lahore to look at its conservation project together with Aga Khan. But personally, I've never been. I feel from looking at pictures, it's beautiful. But I guess you guys have your own challenges, especially in I'm not gonna talk about politics and all that, but then in terms of how places are, climate is a problem. You the well, it's pretty hot in Pakistan, right? It has hit almost a 50-degree Celsius. So maybe could that be the main priority where you include into your placemaking agenda, climate and placemaking? And also, yeah, I think you guys got a lot of assets that you guys can preserve. So heritage and placemaking would be the other one that I think you guys should could look into.
Yes, thank you so much for paying attention to these areas and to actually share some of your ideas or solutions for it. And I really appreciate it. And yes, these are problematic areas and we need to work on it. And a few people are working on it as well, like the Aga Khan Trust or the Wall City Authority. They are doing great work in these respect. Okay, so any advice for the young professionals who are joining in?
Um, when you go into placemaking, have a very open mind. The people knows the area better than you do. So you have to listen to the people. You have to talk to the people. You can't be a placemaker with a perceived idea or notion of the space already and then go in with solutions. It just doesn't work. You're gonna find yourself in a project that will never take off. Or even if it takes off, it will never be sustainable. So yeah,
Very concise,
advice.
very concise, very focused, and truly right on point. That I would say. And it was such a lovely talk with you. And after this talk, I wouldn't just say that I'm only inspired. I would say that I know the hit areas to work on. And that was an amazing conversation. Like it felt like a meeting with a professional, and I'm so happy to do it. So thank you so much, Nicole. It was lovely talking to you, and I would love to stay in touch and learn more from you in future as well.
Yeah, thank you, Aspa, for having me. I mean, we could always, if you have any issues or challenges, just feel free, reach out,
Thank,
and yeah, we can see how we can just brainstorm it together.
thank you. It means a lot, and I'll see you soon. Take care and bye bye.
Thank you, Aspa. Bye.
Take care.